Hello again. Can I talk to you today about a common problem with gifted children, and that's perfectionism. This is where the child takes on themselves a decision to make everything just right. It's where they've almost finished a page of a project and they make a small mistake, and then they have to start the page again. Like, you can't use whiteout because then the page wouldn't be perfect. You can't cross it out and write the correction above it, but you have to start the whole page again. And these are the children who put in, I know you can't go past 100% effort, but it looks like they do 150% effort to get this beautiful work. And of course, as parents and teachers, we praise that beautiful work, and sometimes we do things like give them A++. And so it's reinforcing the child's behaviour. Now, this behaviour is almost an obsessive compulsive type of thing. The child is not in control anymore of what they're doing, because this feeling of not letting people down. I can't let my parents down, I can't let my teacher down, I can't let myself down, because I always do wonderful work, so it has to be A++, or it's not worth anything. I'll rip it up and I'll say I didn't do it. And it's a kind of sickness. One of the things I know is that if this persists in girls, probably men too, but that they'll never reach the top in their profession or their job, because when the boss is looking for someone to promote, to do another job, he's not going to choose someone who looks as though it takes an incredible amount of effort to do the job. Bosses want production. They want actually jobs off the line, completed, finished, bringing income into the business. So if they have a choice of one person who does quite a good job, adequate, and the things come off the line, and everything's working and the business is making money, as against another person who does absolutely perfect job, it's just outstandingly wonderful, but they only get 2 jobs done to the other person's 5, who are they going to choose? And so we have to be really careful about reinforcing this perfectionism in output. I had a girl brought to me one time. She was 15 and she was a very, very good student at everything. And she was feeling suicidal because of the combination of the teachers' expectations of her in secondary school. So she had a number of teachers, all expecting, her to be top of the class in everything, in their particular subject, but like the 6 expectations like that, and her own perfectionism and pride in her work, and she was just overwhelmed. And so her mum brought her and we had a chat about it, and all I said to her was that she needed to be in control of it, not it in control of her, and so that she needed to look at the whole situation and make a judgment about how much work she was going to do in each topic. For example, she could have done 80% work in all the subjects, or she could choose to do perfection in a couple of subjects, 100% in a couple of subjects, and 51% in a couple of subjects. And so we sat there and we worked out what subject would be her first choice for not worrying about going for 100%. And so she thought about it and she chose one, and I said, well, what would be a reasonable level? Could you work at 51% in that subject? Well, she thought she can, and I said, well, how's the teacher going to feel about that? So I said, look, it's not fair to decide to do that, to take the pressure off yourself and make you feel a lot more comfortable without letting that teacher know that that's the subject that you've chosen not to work in. Oh, okay. So you have to think of a way of saying it to the teacher that's acceptable to the teacher and where it won't add more pressure onto you. So she went and told the teacher of this subject that she'd made this choice and why she'd made this choice, and that she was going to work to her normal level in the other subjects but not in this teacher subject, and so and she's telling her in advance out of courtesy so that she wouldn't be disappointed if the results weren't there. So I asked later on, a few months later, how she got on. Well, she'd got A's in everything, even the one she'd only worked at 51% in. Amazing, isn't it? But because she was in control, it took enormous pressure off her and helped her to learn a technique for overcoming this perfectionism. And I think parents and teachers need to be very careful not to reinforce that perfectionist. And you know, of course, that quite often the parents are perfectionist as well. I once had a parent ring me up to tell me that I'd left a comma out of the newsletter and that he was willing to edit it for me at a price. Well, you know, for me, I've learnt to overcome perfectionism long ago, and if there's a comma left out and it doesn't change the meaning, well, you know, I'm not very fussed about it. And I wasn't insulted. I just felt, okay, there's a child that I would watch in WiseOnes, really, if he's got a father, say, perfectionist, and maybe the child could be suffering from that. And if I didn't see any damage happening, I wouldn't do anything. But if I did, well, I would know where it came from. Because, you know, this giftedness business is largely inherited. And then it's nurtured by such behaviour. And possibly parents did this at home for the child too, so that there was enormous pressure on the child to be perfect. Well, none of us are, you know. You can't live a human life and be perfect all the time. I think there's only one claimant to that. So we all have to learn to live with failure, pick ourselves up and get on with it again, to look at personal bests. And in WiseOnes, personal bests is our preferred method of looking at things, to say, well, gee, that's better than you did last time, isn't it? Congratulations, that's really good. And not be saying, gee, that's an A double plus. You are so wonderful. Well, you know, they're not wonderful because they do things. They just are wonderful because they're human beings. And so we've just got to watch for that perfectionism. And in WiseOnes, we can see that sometimes happening. One of the other things about perfectionism is it stops people actually starting, because if they don't know where to start, they're not prepared to start in a second-rate position. And I remember once doing a Chinese history exam, and it was an open book exam, so I had a book. You'd think a person would be able to get 100% with that, wouldn't you? Or start writing anyway, and I just was blocked and couldn't start at all. But I remembered a technique. And this is what these children do. They remember techniques, so we have to teach them the techniques. And that technique was to write anything down. You can always cross it out afterwards if you want to, but it doesn't make sense, and mine didn't make sense. I copied a sentence out of the book, the first one I came to. And then I pointed out that had nothing whatever to do with the Chinese history I was going to write about, and it was quite okay, and I got a distinction for it. So, and in 20 minutes too for the exam. So, you know, those little strategies and techniques are really important for us to teach the children, because it's not all about the academic or the intellectual or the ethical discussions or the moral things. It's learning about life and how to manage it when you're a gifted person and these things happen to you. So just watch out for that perfectionism and give them little techniques and strategies to overcome it, and concentrate on the personal bests rather than A double pluses or A pluses. Yes, A's. An A is a recognition that the child's working a couple of years ahead of level. That's fine. But when you add those pluses, it encourages not too good behaviour. Not good for the child, that is. Might look good for the teacher. Right? Thank you.